And the thought of you watching me gets me so wet.
And that was Jim Hall. My bad, I didn't mean to
No,
start
you're
the
good.
shot.
You're good. You're
I
good.
didn't know if you were going to say it. That was Jim Hall. Great interview.
That was
great
a great
first
interview.
guest. He was actually a really cool, down-to-earth guy.
He was.
Like he said, if you're having any home hauntings or anything
Any residential hauntings?
anything you think should be observed, give him a shout.
He seemed like a legit guy.
He was a down-to-earth guy. And we are back today with the titty vest, of course. We have a lot less beers than what we had when we started this.
That's a nice titty vest
we're okay.
again.
I love it.
You should get your own embroidered titty vest. That says,
100%.
That says "Save the grits, check the tits."
Check the fucking tits. You know what they say? Dodging a wrench, dodging a ball.
Dodging a wrench and dodging a ball. I cut holes in all of my drawers. Gave her all of my dick and a piece of my balls. And dodging a wrench just like dodging a ball. Oh, we gotta go live on Instagram. I forgot to go live.
We have Coronas today, boys.
Corona.
We are fucking turned. Turn the fuck up. Teed up.
I'm about to go.
That was not a gang sign. That was an okay sign.
Okay, we're going
not
live
in
again.
A gang.
Not a gang, folks. All right, let's see. I hit that, don't I?
Nah, hit the where it says 4K.
All right, we're
Dodging
going back
a
again.
wrench. Our light finally died after 3 episodes. I'm kind of proud of it.
That's all right.
Our light's kind of... We got shit. We got enough light in this motherfucker. Fuck it.
And I was going to say...
Fuck this jank-ass
say... We're finally going live on Instagram. Clocked
We
out
figured it
combos.
out this time, boys. We have figured it out.
So if you want to go on there and see us live, watch two morons.
Holy shit, Stephen and Cody's Clocked Out Conversation started alive.
They started alive. Are they? It's alive. It's alive.
It's alive.
So our whole episode this time was on the USS North Carolina.
Yes, sir, it was.
And Jim Hall, you'll hear in the interview, he was a part of the first crew that got to go in before it was set up as like a tourist attraction.
Before it was even haunted North Carolina.
And I was going to say, stick around to the end of the episode because that's a fantastic interview.
Oh, 100%.
It was great.
It's going to be...
Sensational. But how was your day today? Oh, and again, by the way, Cody from the 90s, a.k.a. Coyd, a.k.a. the man around the world. What's your name, young man?
Stephen Michelle Renee Woods.
Hell of a name.
You know how we do.
That's a fantastic name.
We got the titty vest on. You know what?
Does everybody call you Steven or do a few call you Stefan? Oh, sorry, I messed that up. That's glass on aluminum, son. Sounds like a goddamn Dixie used baseball bat flying off this son of a bitch.
Stefan Diggs.
Oh, God. But, so, right before we get into this...
Anything interesting happened to you this week?
No, and again, it's just hot as fuck outside.
Honestly, it is, but this week I don't know what it is. It was hot as shit today. It was every bit. It was 90-something, but it felt like goddamn 120.
Well, down here in the south, you factor in that humidity.
90 turns into 120 real quick.
90 turns into 110, 15.
0 to 100.
I went through
real
the Wendy's
quick.
drive-thru the other day. I said, damn, one of them, what's them little ice cream? That Frosty looks damn delectable. And then I thought about how it would sit on my gut. I was like, I'm not getting that. It'll make me shit my pants in 30 minutes from now.
That's the best, is shitting your pants in 30 minutes.
If I would have shit my pants, I would have had an excuse to leave work early. I'm sorry, guys. I'm shitting a Frosty out of my ass. I got to get out of here.
That's exactly what... That's the type time we're on.
It's always on timing. It's always... Just like that little gentleman that reviews food on TikTok. It's shaka clock on the wrist. You know who he is? You don't know who J-Shock is?
No.
He's famous because he fucking no-look handshake this dude. And he reviews stuff. He's actually a cool dude.
Shaka clock on the wrist.
You know what time? It's shaka clock on the wrist. So shout out J-Shock. That young man's living it up. What kind of beer are you sipping? You said a Corona?
cut our... Oh, no!
I'm drinking
Corona for the live.
I'm drinking a Coors... Well, it ain't a Coors Light.
Coors Banquet. If you're on live, you can see this. I got me one right here. One for him. I got me 2 more Coronas. There's no way I'm drinking all these.
I have never felt any more humbled than right now. We're live with nobody watching it. Ain't that incredible? So it's like talking to yourself.
Started from the bottom. We gonna be here.
Once you let that scorpion sting you on the nuts, as we discussed in the last episode, see that live?
You know,
it's gonna be going ape shit.
We didn't get to 20K followers, which is okay. It was a big ask. But I'm just glad that I don't have to put my bare dick in the cage with the scorpion.
Time ain't out yet.
It's been 2 days.
Time ain't out yet. That stands for the whole rest of the year. Get us to 20K, he'll put his phallus in there.
You have until Christmas. I'm not doing it after Christmas. I'm not going to be hanging out.
All right, that's fair enough. What's Santa Claus bring you? A goddamn scorpion bite on my dick.
You get us to 20K followers by Christmas, my dick is going fucking in there, son.
We're going up.
I'm getting stung on the foul.
What's that dumbass song? If it's up, then it's up. That stupid ass song.
If
it's
up,
old
then it's
now.
Up, then it's
I
up,
hate that
then
fucking
it's
song. I'd rather drown myself in Vaseline than listen to that song.
Just so you know, I cannot read these notes.
Oh, you can't? You're supposed to be able to see. You're supposed to be.
See this part.
I
can't see like this much. I'll just do this. I'll just be doing
like you're peeking through a window, like a peeping Tom.
Peeping Tom. I have an idea.
Do I need to move this?
No, you're good. No. What? Hit the little. What? Hold on. Technical difficulties live.
Nobody's on there, so it don't matter.
Y'all. You know what? If you join now, fuck y'all. It's too late.
I guess that's good. I guess it means y'all have a job or something, so you're not on here.
At 7:30, what are they doing? Hooking?
They work at the Amazon warehouse. They got to get them goddamn packages out.
Something.
But what were you going to tell me today?
Oh, just make it like a little square over here. Like from here.
Okay, hold on.
Baby girl. You care if I sit on your lap while we do this?
That's for our 15th episode. I've already got it planned. And we're also going to be cooking hot dogs live.
What do you think about doing this? So when we read, you do like this part, and then I'll do this part, and then we'll go one on one. Since these are real short.
Okay.
You know what I'm trying to say?
Can you read?
Hardly. I went to public school in Rowan County. It is.
Oh yeah,
it is.
He's
scary.
He's not the brightest bulb, folks.
I never said I was smart, but I'm horny.
Hey. Can't nobody take that from you.
Ain't nobody. Balls deep head first. That's what they say.
Well, let's get balls deep. I'm already head first. So let's get into it.
Hold on.
Go ahead. Put your one in. You know what they call that? The sound of freedom.
Woo! I only got 2 of these sumbitches left.
I got some of these knockoffs. You can always stick 2 of these in and call it a day.
We are ready to fucking record.
Are you sure? Are we all ready? To the people out there in TV land,
you need
are
anything?
You ready?
A little bit of head?
I'll take some head. Then I'm ready. Anyway, as we talked about before, today's episode is about the history of the USS North Carolina. Okay? And it's located right now in Wilmington. And as we were talking about with Jim Hall, I know a bunch of people who have been there. But yeah. I've never... Is it because I'm poor? Is it because I wasn't invited? I don't know. But I ain't never been there. Still, Steven, don't look this way because nobody's on here.
I know, but it's making me nervous.
It makes me feel humble that nobody gives one fuck what we're doing on here.
It is kind of nice because we're not performing for an audience. It's not like shooting OnlyFans.
So let's just talk about it a little bit, okay? And we're not gonna be able to read it like this, really, because there's some stuff but we will. Okay. So the USS North Carolina was laid down June 27th, 1937, and it was laid down at the New York Navy Yard located in Brooklyn, New York. So you would think, oh, it's the USS North Carolina. They must have built it in Charlotte. Yep. They must have built it in Gold Hill. They must have went to Statesville to the Freightliner place and built it. You'd be wrong.
They built it in downtown Salisbury across the street from Go Burrito.
No, it's a Yankee ship, okay? Let's just be quite frank. That's where it was built at. Okay? It's not from around here. Don't get it twisted.
Don't get it twisted. So, June 13th, 1940. Sponsored by Mrs. Robert R. Reynolds, wife of a U.S. Senator from North Carolina.
That was when it was launched. So she had pull.
Damn, why didn't I read that?
No, you're fine.
Yeah, no, it wasn't.
You can't read. It's a miracle you even got that far.
I don't know how I made it that far.
So she had pull.
Yeah.
That's how she got. Yeah.
He
pull.
Needs a pull. Yeah.
He's doing a
homosexual gesture down here.
Which I don't mind it.
Not that it bothers me none.
Not that it bothers me none. It was commissioned April 9th, 1941 under the command of Captain Gaston N. That is a hard-ass last name.
Woodine.
Woodine. Only Bodine I know was the race car driver. Maybe he had something to do with it.
So the USS North Carolina was the first new battleship built by the U.S. Navy after World War I. And I didn't want to sound stupid. It says BB-55.
It's also known as BB-55.
Okay. I didn't know that. That's why I didn't say that.
It was designed for speed and firepower. Fast and the Furious shit. Vin Diesel shit. Alright? It was meant for the speed.
I heard Paul Walker was the captain.
Ricky Bobby almost drove it. I don't know how true that is. But it was the most advanced battleship in the world at the time of its commissioning. The ship was equipped with 9 16-inch guns, like these, capable of firing 2,700-pound shells. That's a big-ass shell.
2,700 pounds. That's bigger than the biggest bitch you've ever had.
That's bigger than the biggest BBW you ever lifted up over your head.
You what. So, the attack on Pearl Harbor. So, the USS North Carolina was not at Pearl Harbor during the attack on December 7th, 1941, but was quickly put on a war footing after the attack. That's because us Southern boys do it, boy.
We
see war, we get involved.
Yeah, we do.
I'm not happy. I'm not proud of it, but that's what we do as Americans.
When the Japanese flew in, they said, look, we're going to do some shell shit right quick. But we ain't shell enough to go in there with that thing.
Hear me out, Cody.
Go ahead.
USS North Carolina. What if we were a cuck ship? We just stood back watching.
The USS Cuck.
Yeah. What if...
We're watching everything get...
Cucked Out podcast.
What if
this is what happened?
We're watching everything get messed up or fucked up. And we're just sitting back there, sitting on the cuck couch, watching it all happen.
Watching all legs spread in the wind. Pair of swimming trunks maybe to go for a little dip in the pool.
Can you imagine that? You're just like, I'm going to go for a dip, Randall. And the next thing you
jump
know...
in the fucking Pacific.
Holy shit, there's a damn torpedo coming my way. But, the first combat action. After training in the Atlantic and the Caribbean, the USS North Carolina was sent to the Pacific and participated in its first combat action in the Battle of the Pacific.
Woo!
So it's seeing action. It said, you know what? You came through. You fucked with the wrong one. I'm sending it out. And I bet you they had hamburger helper. They were eating 100%. That shit ready to go to war because this is America.
Fuck yeah!
America!
So, Cody left me with the hard word, of course.
It's Guadalcanal.
That wasn't as hard when he said it. So, the Battle of Guadalcanal. In November 1942, the North Carolina played a significant role in the Battle of the Eastern Solomons and the Battle of the Guadalcanal. It helped provide air defense and naval support to the Marines during the Solomon Island campaigns.
I'm very proud of you for reading that sentence. This guy's came a long way in the past few weeks.
When this boy first met me, I could barely beat my own dick.
But now look at you.
He taught me how.
You're spanking your pecker. You're reading words. I mean, you're a modern day marvel. So, the Pacific Campaign. The USS North Carolina participated in numerous key battles. So, it was involved in the Battle of the Philippine Sea, which was in June 1944. The Battle of the Mariana Islands in June 1944. So, they're seeing a lot of action all in 1 year. And the Battle of the Leyte Gulf, and if I said that wrong, don't stab me, in October 1944. So, that whole year in 1994, they were serving it out.
1944 is what he meant to say.
What did I say?
1994.
Oh, yeah, I forgot. Nah, sorry, I got mixed up. But yeah, 1944.
They say I can't read. So,
I can't count. Guess we're even.
Oh, no money. So, the air defense role. The ship was credited with shooting down multiple enemy aircrafts during battles, providing vital protection for Allied carriers. My bad. Bro, did you see? I seen a post that said, "Rest in peace, Toby Keith. He would have loved the Iran War." That shit had me crazy.
He would have probably had a whole bunch of songs out by now.
We gotta give him one.
What you gonna give him?
We don't have cans today.
Oh, you're gonna do a bottle crack. Go ahead.
But you're getting a lukewarm bottle crack.
I enjoyed it.
And honestly, Coronas are better warm. Hate me if you hate me. They're not better, but they're not. It's not like drinking a Miller Lite one.
No. I do not confirm anything he just said.
Don't listen to this motherfucker.
If you drink warm beer, you're foreign, okay?
If you drink any warm beer, it better be a Corona.
That was almost grounds enough to end this podcast. Yeah, I don't like my beer cold. Stick it outside.
Oh no, I love my cold beer, but these sumbitches have been in my titty vest. We did an hour interview today.
That is true. But, so the damage and repairs during the Battle of the Santa Cruz Islands in October 1942, the ship was damaged by bombs, but it returned to service after repairs. So they put some bandages on it. They stuck some of that shit that guy rides around on that boat, that Flex Seal. When he gets on that shit, split in half. No problem. Use Flex Seal. He sticks that tape on it. That motherfucker's just cruising.
His name's Phil, but I don't know his last name. We'll just call him Phil Collins for the episode. No free shout-outs.
No free shout-outs. Yeah, he only gets the distinct name of Phil Collins, LLC.
So, the end of the war. So, the USS North Carolina continued operations in the Pacific until the end of World War II in 1945. It was present at the Japanese surrender aboard the USS Missouri, also known as BB-63.
So they were fighting up into it until Japan said, look, I didn't know what I was dealing with. I see a bunch of damn rednecks on this son of a bitch. They're floating in. They're ready to go. I can't do it. We're going back out of this.
And the crazy thing is, why the fuck does Missouri have a ship?
Well,
they're in the Midland. Like, there's no water, brother.
Because they, from what I understand, they name them different things. When is the USS Salisbury? They couldn't have that. It'd have meth addicts and homeless people on it.
It'd just be full of fentanyl. Hey, but a fentanyl pipe bomb would go crazy right now. Modern day, if you fucking fit pipe somebody, they'd be so fucked it'd be crazy.
Holy shit, they're shooting one of them fat torpedoes. Get off here. Get off here.
Don't breathe.
The ship was decommissioned June 27th, 1947, so not too long after the war. And the ship was placed in reserve after being decommissioned.
Yes, sir. And the ship was modernized in the early 1950s, but never returned to active service.
The USS North Carolina was formally decommissioned for the last and final time on June 27th, 1961, the year of our Lord and Savior.
Year of our Lord, of course. Yes,
I love that.
So, in 1962, the USS North Carolina was donated to the state of North Carolina and became a museum in Wilmington, North Carolina.
So they Goodwilled it.
Beach town.
It was donated.
Town.
You go to Goodwill, you could have bought it.
You literally could have.
It's a historic landmark now. In 1986, it was designated on the National Historic Landmark for its historical significance. The USS North Carolina, also known as BB-55, is often remembered as one of the most decorated battleships of World War II, having earned 15 battle stars for its service.
Woo!
So it's getting the stars. It's getting the stars. It's getting the glamour. It's getting the...
Glamorous.
I mean, I feel like we gotta go there. I feel like at this point, I've been revved up like a fucking weed eater that ain't been started all summer. I got oil leaking out of the back. I got gas. I smell like gas. And I'm ready to be thrown right in.
Right in.
Right in.
Right in the entrance.
So, what brought this to our attention isn't just the history, which that is cool. And I am a really World War II history person, even though a lot of people don't know that.
I really like history,
but
too.
But what brought us to this, and I just want to say one more thing, nobody is still on our live, so you all can go fuck yourself. I mean, at least one of you. should be on here. I know ain't none of y'all living that big of a life.
I know at least 2 groupies that follow us that want to fuck us, that we possibly have fucked in the past. Why are you not watching?
I'm quite frankly ashamed of it. Each and every last one of you. And when we go live next time, if you guys ain't on here, we will show up in your front yard and do the next podcast.
I'll shit beside your well house.
Yeah.
Call your landlord. I don't give a fuck.
Call your landlord. How many fucks did we give? None. But what brought it to our attention was the ghost stories.
Ooh. So, there have been ghost stories and paranormal reports. If you listen to the interview with Jim Hall, you'll fucking know what we're talking about. So, obviously associated with the USS North Carolina, especially given its long and storied history during World War II. The ship, now a museum in Wilmington, North Carolina, is said to be home to some spooky happenings. Here's a look at the haunted reputations of the USS North Carolina.
And I just want to say something about Wilmington right quick. Every fucking douchebag I know went to school there.
Oh,
I'm not saying everybody that
Oh.
went there. This kid, we were at the bar one time and we knew him.
Yeah.
And literally my buddy was like trying to get a drink because there was so many people there. And he literally yelled back to him and said, "I can't give you any free drinks. I just tap the table and say tequila sunrise and he brings me one." Motherfucker, we wasn't asking for a free drink. And I bet you that kid lives in Mount Pleasant now, is addicted to fentanyl. God bless him. God bless him. That's just a little quick diss.
You said you bet, or you know?
No, I don't know. Hell, he might make Flex Seal tape. Shit, I don't know what the fucker does. Now, I'm not saying everybody. Some people were cool, but there was a lot of tryhards that went there. But some of the reputation and the claims of these ghosts, one of the big ones are mysterious noises, okay? And kind of like Jim Hall said, it is a boat. So
Yes.
there's going to be, noises. Like that doesn't, and even he said, it don't necessarily mean that everything's a ghost.
No.
And I agree with that. But visitors and staff have reported hearing strange noises aboard the ship, such as footsteps, banging, and voices, especially in the dark and isolated areas like the engine room, the boiler rooms, and below the deck. Maybe it was Zach and Cody. You remember that program when they went on deck? Imagine if they were on this. Raising hell. Mr. Mosby, get your ass the fuck up off this boat.
What the fuck are you doing under the ship? The sweet life of Zach and Cody. So, some people claim to hear sounds of men shouting or voices of sailors talking in the distance.
Bring my dude wipes.
Dude! You got any bush light?
You got any bush light in there? Where's the hamburger helper? I'd shit my pants if I heard that. Then I'd bring them some hamburger helper.
I know they were
If
like
you come
trash.
back as a ghost, yeah, I could relate to him. If you come back as a ghost and you only want some bush light and some hamburger helper, buddy, I'm serving it up for you. That's all there is to say about that. So you read that part, didn't you?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So one of the ghosts that people claim they see is of a sailor, which isn't really that
No, it's
at
a
all.
fucking
It's
boat.
a ship. A common legend associated with the USS North Carolina is that a sailor spirit who died aboard the ship. The sailor is often thought to be seen in the bows, not like where you shit at, but in the bows of the ship around the lower decks, and is said to appear as a shadowy figure.
That is...
That
crazy.
would be creepy to see. And
So-
again, we still have nobody watching. So,
Yeah.
again, go fuck yourself.
So, the sailor's ghost is believed to wander the corridors, and some paranormal investigators have said they felt a chill or seen strange light anomalies. That is crazy.
That would be crazy.
It's a fucking ghost!
Just,
Who the fuck took my pizza rolls out the oven at 30 seconds? It's a ghost. The power didn't flicker.
I didn't want this hot pocket. It's cold in the middle, you dumb bastard. Anyway, another famous haunted location, a hotbed of activity on this boat, is the engine room. And I've seen a lot of stuff about this. The ship's engine room has been a hot spot for ghostly activity. People have reported feelings of unease, sudden drops in temperature, and even apparitions or shadows seen moving in the area. This area is especially popular for paranormal investigations.
Also, the captain's quarters. Some staff and visitors have claimed to see a ghostly figure of a former captain standing near the quarters or on the bridge. So, watching over the ship as though still commanding it, the figure is often described as an older man in naval attire. Which 100% goes along with this story.
Do you think
it's a fucking boat.
Do you think he's eating a Hot Pocket? Like, it's cold as shit in the middle of it, and he's looking down at or a toaster strudel with the middle still frozen.
He's probably got a cookout tray. He's probably got a slow dog.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure he does. That'd be one scary
Actually, no. He's from Wilmington?
Yeah.
Motherfucker.
Well, it don't mean he's from there. Let's say he's from a little town made up named Rockwell.
He's either got a Sonic burger or a fucking Hot Dog Shack hot dog.
And
there's no other place this motherfucker would be.
And
Johnny's? He's eating at Johnny's?
And he got his hair cut from that tattoo hair place.
He's at Napa buying towels.
And that one spot, you can go in there, you can buy a goddamn water pump, get your hair cut, and get a face tat all in a fucking circle.
I'm telling you, they give you a discount if you get a tattoo and a haircut at the same time.
If you go in,
you'll get a dry hand job.
If you go in right now, you can get. They call it. You know how Wendy's has the 4 for $4. It's called a 3 for $3. What you do is you go in there and ask for a 3 for $3. You get a bowl cut,
a
nice bowl cut, a tattoo, and a free water pump, and that's a goddamn good deal. A 3 for $3. That's a good deal. Steven's checking us out on live. Oh my God, we got one viewer, and it's us. He's hearting it up right now.
Man, at least somebody's fucking with us.
I mean, am I talking to
Go watch the live!
Am I talking to myself or am I not? Anyway, another one is the flickering lights. Another report often heard is of lights flickering or turning on and off randomly, even though there is no reason for the electrical system to malfunction. But it is old.
It is.
I mean, there is a chance.
But then again, the military builds shit to withstand bombs. You know
that's
what I mean?
true, but you got to think that shit's
it's also old as shit. Yeah, I mean World War II.
That's almost.
My daddy wasn't even born yet.
I mean, it was in the 40s.
My granddaddy wasn't even born yet.
20 years from now, that thing will be like 100 years old.
My grandpa was born in like the 60s. He wasn't even born yet.
Well, my great-grandpa was in World War II. One day I'll maybe will tell a little bit.
My great-granddad wanted to go, but
he didn't serve in the Pacific. But one day we'll talk about, because I'm sure we'll run into some other military adjacent topics.
Oh, wow. We got one viewer, and it's a fucking groupie. So, paranormal investigations and tours. So, the ship has been part of paranormal investigations and ghost tours for several years, with groups like TAPS.
TAPS. Well, you can call it that.
With groups like TAPS or
TAPS,
the Atlantic Paranormal Society, which we had just learned is ghost hunters.
Yeah.
Visiting to look into the stories, investigators often use EMF detectors, thermal cameras, and audio recorders to capture evidence of the paranormal.
I want to go in there with a boombox and a VHS style camera like we talked about last week. So, some investigations, have resulted in strange EVP, also known as electronic voice phenomena.
Woo!
The phenomena. Recordings. Voices captured that weren't audible at the time of the recording, which is like what Jim Hall said.
It is exactly what Jim Hall said, and they're probably talking about him. Realistically, they probably are.
It might be.
But the ship's dark past and its role in several violent and tragic events during World War II, example, battles and heavy casualties, may contribute to the beliefs that spirits may still roam the ship.
Which isn't, that wild to think about, because it was a fucking ship that people died on. Oh my God, we got a big fan. Okay, we got a big fan here. It says big fan groupie energy here. So we have one groupie. Let's give a round of applause. He's flipping off the camera. At least we got one viewer. Big groupie.
Big group. Big groupie.
The psychological factors, as with many places associated with death and conflict, such as like Gettysburg, or, that's a good comparison, sort of. There may also be psychological factors at play. The ship's imposing size, because they say it's big as shit. Even though when you look at a picture, it don't look that big, but it's because you're not standing in front of it. It's like my phallus. When you get in front of it, you say, oh my God. there's a phallus. When you look at a picture of it, you don't know what to think. You know? But the ship's imposing size and the eerie...
Is that a light bulb?
Is that a light bulb? No, that's a pecker. Its imposing size and its eerie atmosphere in dark spaces and the loneliness of being aboard a massive vessel in the middle of the ocean could lead people to feel a sense of unease or even hallucinations. However, many people still believe that these experiences go beyond simple imagination. I could see somebody getting on there and just being tweaked out, like freaked out by it. Like if you go
100%.
into a place that you know
is haunted, or there's thoughts of being haunted, you know, and you know, I mean, it's like if we went to the house they filmed Annabelle, or not they filmed, but the house Annabelle came from,
yeah,
you'd probably have some uneasy feeling. You know what I mean? I mean, it's what the fact of the nature, is that what they say? You know what I mean?
it's like you know where you're at. Like if you go into a bathroom that everybody says, oh, every time I go in there, it smells like shit, and you go in there, you're gonna assume, even if it smells good, it smells like shit in here. You know, you're gonna be a part of what's going on.
And you know,
This is not a rap battle, by the way. If it was, I'd lose. This guy's the next Eminem.
you know what they say: dodging a wrench, dodging a ball.
Dodging a wrench is like dodging a ball. We'll have to drop
I
that
ain't got
song
no
with it.
pants on, my dick and my balls.
That's a good tune right there. If we got that thing going, man, it'd be off.
Let me know if you want to hear Dodging a Wrench, Dodging a Ball. It's coming out soon. Somebody send us a fire-ass country beat to get on. We'll record it.
It's only going to be available as a Kids Bop song, though. So we're going to hire somebody to sing our parts. Because Kids Bop's taking over the nation. Y'all are ready for the new Kanye album? No. I'm ready for the new Kids Bop album.
That's exactly what I'm waiting for.
Have you heard the Kids Bop version of What the Helly?
What the hell? What the heliante?
It's pretty crazy. It's a very good remix. It says, what the heck?
What the hecky?
What the hecky-ante? What the heck? It's a classic and so much better than the original.
Yeah, I don't believe in all that cussing and shit.
No.
And stuff.
Yeah, when people start to get to cussing, I get to fussing.
Yeah.
That's what I say. When I hear a bunch of cussing, I'm just like, cut that off.
Cussing and fussing.
I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear all that cussing.
If you want to hear our next song, Cussing and Fussing, you know, we might be dropping it soon. It might be an intro song. You never know.
It might be the biggest hit of the summer. I'll tell you, what is
Summertime!
what is one artist
Strawberry
that you
wine.
cannot stand? It is the worst thing you've ever listened to. But people listen to it. It like baffles you that they're famous. I know mine.
I mean, most of the ones that I know, people don't really listen to them either.
Well, you can throw them out there.
I mean, obviously. Actually, no, I do know mine. It's G Herbo. Not because he sucks. He's just offbeat.
It's just not your type.
In my opinion, he's just not my. That's not my shit. Oh, 1900 Rugrat, and I know I posted him on my story, but
is he the white guy? That makes me ashamed to be white.
Chopper got an AR like he's doing his schools, huh?
Yeah.
Yellow wide body, yeah. No,
you know the lyrics. I don't know. You might go.
Shut
You
your
might
bitch
be
ass
a
up.
fan right there.
Shut your bitch ass up. That shit was so big on TikTok, it is crazy.
I was gonna say the one artist that really baffles me that they got paid to make music, and hate me if you want to, I don't care. It's the worst thing I've ever heard in my life.
Stunner for Vegas.
No, Limp Bizkit. It's
Oh
awful.
yeah, no, agreed.
That is the worst shit. That shit literally sounds like it smells like cat piss camping. Like, if you listen
What
to
does
Limp
that even
Bizkit,
mean?
it just makes me feel like if I had to put, like, a vivid image and smell to what I'm looking at, it's three dirty trailer trash rednecks camping in
So me, you, and one other person.
with cat piss stained sheets in the middle. That's all they got. So they just bring the cat piss stained sheets
So
with
once
them
again, me, you, and one other person
out in the woods, and literally they're the type of people that smoke cigs in their house and put the cigarette butts in the couch cushions.
So once again, me, you, and another person.
They just Oh, we lost our only viewer.
She left. She left us.
Guys, I don't know what to tell you. What are you doing that's so exciting? Methadone? I mean, fuck. What do y'all got going on?
Get away from the clinic, you fucking crackheads.
I mean, y'all hang around the clinic. You want to know something crazy? You know how last episode we talked about Bicycle Boy and how he knocked on that
Bicycle
door?
Boy.
It happened today, and it popped up in my memories.
No shit.
And I literally laughed at the comment. I had to show it to you off the camera. It's pretty funny. I'm participating in Halloween today.
Mr. Jeff. Mr. Jeff, give me my candy, Mr. Jeff.
Oh, he gonna give me my candy.
Okay. What the fuck? You said nothing happened to you at all this week?
Honestly, no.
Nothing. Yeah, nothing that I want to. Nothing that I'm willing to talk about.
I was gonna say, let's read off some of those. So this is how this came about.
This is how we found Jim Hill.
Yeah,
or Jim Hall.
Jim Hall.
I'm so sorry.
So Steven put out a Reddit. What do you even call that? Because I don't even use Reddit. Like a
post?
thread post. I don't know. So he put one
called.
out so we could get somebody on because we were excited about having somebody that really actually had something to do with the USS North Carolina.
Great podcast, Big. That's Aaron.
And I was gonna say, let's read off some of the wonderful things we had, and I want to read off. I don't even need to read it because he deleted it. Because he's a bitch.
Just go ahead and read it.
He said, so Steven put a post out, saying, this about, we're doing a podcast on this.
Well, this is, I'll read you exactly what the post
off.
says before we read it.
And I'll tell you.
Have you ever experienced something paranormal on the USS North Carolina Battleship in Wilmington? ? That's the title.
Yeah.
Here's the body. My name's Steven, and I co-host a podcast called Clocked Out Conversation with my friend Cody.
That's me.
We cover strange, unsettling, and who the fuck else would it be? And mysterious stories, everything from true crime and cryptids to haunted places across North Carolina. We're currently working on an upcoming episode focused on the USS North Carolina, a World War II battleship that's long been rumored to be haunted, from unexplained footsteps to sudden cold spots and sightings of ghostly figures. There's no shortage of spooky claims tied to this historic ship. If you've had a personal experience aboard the USS North Carolina or know someone who has, we'd love to hear your story. We're looking to interview guests who are willing to share what they saw, heard, or felt while visiting the ship. You can message us directly or drop a comment below. We take these stories seriously and aim to give them the space and respect they deserve while keeping things conversational and grounded. Whether you're a believer or a skeptic, your experience might help shed light on the lingering mysteries tied to this iconic North Carolina landmark. Steven and Cody, Clock Out Conversations. Very professional. Very nice. I mean, I don't know what else I could have said on
to
this.
Keep it more respect. Like, it was perfect. Well, anyway, this one guy, and as I said, I just wanted to tell you his name and just how he can't figure himself out, okay? And I hope he hears this. His name was Punk Rock Hippie. Okay, those are two things that don't necessarily collide. So what is it? Are you wearing tie-dyed or are you wearing black? Are you at Woodstock or are you at a Sex Pistols concert? What the fuck are you supposed to be? He sounds trans-dimensional. Like he can't figure out where he fits in the world. And he told us, he said, what did he say? He said, you two need a job.
He said, get a job, hippie.
And no one,
or hippies.
Yeah, and the funniest thing is, none of my shit's hippie. Okay?
Yeah. And I replied back to him and I said, we're both blue-collared workers. I said, we do the podcast on the side for fun. And it's something we really enjoy doing.
Because we want to, bitch.
Because we want to, bitch. And then I said, thanks for showing interest in our personal life with a heart emoji.
Yeah.
He never responded, and he eventually ended up deleting his comment.
He backed out of the chat. Because he got a lot of hate. Because I'm going to tell you something right now. With a name like Punk Rock Hippie, you work at these places, okay? I'm going to tell you right now. No, I'm going to tell you right now. He works at a defunct Radio Shack. He works at that hippie store in the mall called Earthbound.
Earthbound? I can see
Or
it.
he works at a kiosk selling sheets. That's exactly what he does.
100%. He sells pillowcases.
And
he's a bitch.
He's a bitch. And he probably works in the air condition. He's never had swamp ass. He's never had sweat dripping down his nutsack. He's not a man. He's a bitch. Okay?
So I'm going to read you our very first reply we got back on this post. Casper literally ate my ass at the USS North Carolina. I replied, I said, this is the exact kind of thing we're looking for. Laughing emoji. This man or woman replied, that's wild because I ate Casper's ass at the USS North Carolina. I said, would love to interview both of y'all.
That's like a human centipede type thing. So, everybody's just eating ass.
So would love to interview both of y'all. We'll do a 3-way phone call. And then somebody replied, shouldn't it be a 4-way phone call so you can get Casper involved? And
they do have a point.
Cody, you can read this one. Here's a story. It's not very long.
The Two Blades one?
Yes, sir.
This man or woman named Two Blades said, my college roommate had a job as a night watchman on the Battleship in the late 70s. I think he would have mentioned... It's still going. I think he would have mentioned something, but he didn't.
And obviously we were looking for not just people that have been there and seen a ghost or felt a ghost, but people that also don't believe in that shit.
Yeah.
Because it gives a twist to, you know, whatever.
There's two sides to every story.
And this, actually, it's not really a ghost story, but I thought it was pretty cool. He said, buddy, so this guy or gal said, buddy of mine and I were in Wilmington for his 50th birthday, and I took him to the Battleship. We were both tankers at one point on the M1 Abrams. Thank you for your service, sir. Just serious, I mean it. I climbed up into the turret and immediately catapulted back in time to Iraq 1991. Todd, and in quotations, says, Todd, get up here. Tell me what this reminds you of.
That would be Desert Storm, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure
it
Desert Storm.
Would be.
So we sat there quietly in the turret for half an hour, surrounded by heat and the smell of paint and cordite gunpowder and hydraulic fluid, surrounded by both of our memories and the memories of the sailors before us, ghosts in the shells. Eventually we snapped out of it, but for a moment in time we were both 19-year-olds again, downrange with 120mm cannons blazing, turbines whining, masters of the battlefield. And obviously that's not a ghost story, but
still cool.
It's just cool that an older guy could go in there and just have a flashback.
And we appreciate him leaving a real comment.
Yeah,
he wasn't a smart ass.
Because this one is, you know what? I'm not going to let you know if it's a real comment or not. Cody's going to read this one. I've already read it.
Okay, so I'm going to say their name and everything. Alternative Part 841. I have one. I used to work at the Battleship from 2005 to 2007. There were a few times when I'd be there at night. It was creepy as hell at night, especially below the deck. One night, around 2 a.m., I was doing a walkthrough and I hear 3 slow knocks coming from behind. Did you hear the knocks? I'm just adding that in for, to make people feel like they're there.
Yeah, 100%. I understand.
Coming from behind a sealed bulkhead. That area is supposed to be completely shut. Like welded shut. I froze. I listened. Nothing. Then, as I started walking away, I hear 3 more knocks. This time it's coming from a different wall, like it moved. I looked through the bulkhead and saw Steven bent over with his pants down. Cody was standing behind him, pounding away. It was super gross. There was ectoplasm everywhere. I went above the deck and barfed. He wouldn't have barfed, he'd have creamed his fucking drawers.
Did you? Hey, you can read what I replied to that, man.
And then Steven says back, shortly and sweetly, it sounds like a good time.
But
well, we appreciate it. At least they put a little effort in.
It is cool. It's funny. But next time, spell my fucking name right.
Oh, God.
So, I got this one right here. It says, sometime around 2009 to 2010, Jason, Grant, Steve, and Dave from Ghost Hunters, which, obviously, we just interviewed Jim Hall. But he said that was back in, like, 2004. So I don't know.
He said it was in 2004.
Held a weekend-long event on the Battleship. I attended both nights and met the guys, but spent most of the time with a small group of about 5 doing our own thing. The only strange thing I witnessed happen.
He's still getting through with the reading, guys. He's trying.
This guy just spelled a little weird. Okay, so the only thing I witnessed happening in the only...
It's all right.
One more time.
You came a long
One more
way.
time. The only thing I witnessed happen in the bathroom area. The room was... This room was where the hull was struck by a torpedo in 1942, and was generally off limits to tours. IIRC, due to being untouched for posterity and no longer actually usable as a restroom. One person from our group was snapping photos the whole time and happened to catch just one photo of the restroom with the most ectoplasmic looking blob trailing around the middle of the photo that I've ever seen. It was white, had a trailing tail that wrapped around and curved around. This was a fucking cum shot.
I was going to say, this is a strange critter.
It looked solid, but only just. We immediately went into debunk mode. Is it camera flash reflecting? Not likely. Actually, the room was so rusty and painted over that it was hard to find a reflective surface at all on that wall or area. It looked like it could have possibly been a camera strap dangling from the front of the lens reflecting the flash, only there was no fucking strap. Anyway, we left shrugging our shoulders about the one cool ghosty thing we caught zooming around on the torpedo bathroom. I think that group members sent a copy to me by email, but that was ages ago and is now sitting in a lost email account. And I'm going to read the replies. This one guy replied, "The section where the torpedo hit is most definitely part of the tour routes. Former tour guide." He had one more reply, or she says, "It was 2005. They also went to Mordecai House." That's not how that one guy said it. It was Mordecai.
Yeah.
Or
I thought
it was something
Mordecai.
like that. House in Raleigh the same week. I know it was 2005 because my friend got married at the Mordecai House a few weeks after the episodes aired. And Jim Hall will actually talk about that. He couldn't remember the exact timestamp, but that's really close to when he said. And let me find you a good one. Here's another one right here.
Which one?
I actually
That
haven't.
one?
I haven't read the
Or this
replies on this. These are the replies right here.
So,
My
dad ran the sound and light show in the 80s. I spent some time on the ship myself when he was working. I was rather young, 6 or 8, like in that range. Somewhere around there. But I can remember running around the ship and it was always spooky. I used to have nightmares about being trapped on the ship and have even had the opportunity to communicate with one of the ghost sailors. It was interesting. If you want the full lowdown, check out the book below by Danny. Check out the below book. Danny Bradshaw lived on the ship 6 nights a week as the caretaker for something like 30 years, and he wrote a book. He has probably had more experiences than anyone. And that book, if y'all want to go get it, which I've heard good things about it, even Jim Hall said. Yeah, exactly. The name of the book, again, if you want to check it out, it's by Danny Bradshaw, okay? And the name of the book is called Ghost on the Battleship, North Carolina.
And not to interrupt, but I have an original video from like right after he wrote the book. This video is probably 15 years old that somebody reached out and sent us. And he wrote the book and dedicated it to his niece that has cerebral palsy. And all the money that he gets for the book goes to her. And
that's really cool.
Her treatment. And obviously, I mean, it was only 15 years ago. But you know, cerebral palsy is a quick.
Oh yeah.
But I hope she's alive and doing well.
But that's awesome that
genuinely.
he took
that.
Seems like a good guy.
It's a genuine
And it
guy.
seems like he would have, some stories. I mean, he lived on it. My question is, where did he live the one other night?
Yeah.
Because it said 6 days a week.
He probably went home and fucked his wife and then came back.
I didn't think about that. Maybe he did. I gotta leave. I got a ball busted.
Here's one. It says, I was there a week ago. It was pretty hot. Obviously, it's fucking summertime. It's goddamn 100 degrees.
Summertime.
And a vending machine stole my dollar. Knowing what I know now, I suspect it was an actual ghost who stole my dollar. And I said, we'd love to get you on the podcast to speak about your horrific experiences. These fucking ghosts must be stopped.
I wonder what they were getting out of the vending machine. They were probably getting some dumb shit. I want to get that Nutella with the little pretzel sticks in it. Hell, I'd steal your money too. Get a cold sun drop and a Little Debbie and stop being a fucking bitch.
I want a protein bar.
So another one says, and this is by Crazy Cat Guy. Love the name, gentlemen. Me and my dad went on the USS North Carolina when I was a teenager. We went in and somehow got split up and ended up exploring the ship on our own. It's an incredibly large ship. I'm not sure if I was already spooked because it was in the evening and I had heard previous stories or what. Exactly. Anywho, I went below one of the decks where people used to sleep. I swear on my great granny's grave. Now you know that's real. When
Dude,
somebody
if you're swearing on your great grandma,
these kids today, you put it on God. No.
nah.
You put it on your great grandma's grave. I believe you.
That's realistic,
You
brother.
could say a damn Martians landed in a flying saucer in your backyard and started grilling out. You put it on your great grandma's grave. I'm believing it. I'm believing it. I saw someone moving in one of the rooms. The door was locked shut so tourists couldn't mess with anything, but there was still a window. I'm probably batshit. I don't know, you put it on your great grandma's grave. But I've always been spooked going back since then.
That is crazy.
So, maybe they did see something. That gentleman. I gotta go before I say anything.
So this person, which is actually pretty cool because, you know, they had a different opinion. They said, my serious answer is no. I've gone several times to the ship and even bought a book by the longtime curator of the ship, Danny, when he published his ghost book. I do believe in ghosts and believe I've come into contact with them around the state, but never at the USS North Carolina. And I happened to reply to him. I said, where else in the state if you don't mind sharing? And he said, I'm not going to say where he lives, but he lives in North Carolina. And he went to school at Western Carolina at Colowee Catamount. I don't know where that is.
Yeah.
But he says
their mascot's the Catamounts. I used to know somebody who played baseball for them.
He says he works for Lowe's Foods, and one night a week I work overnight. This is typically done to hang the price tags you see in grocery stores and to change the weekly ads. My store, I believe to be haunted. I've seen, and I'm reading this exactly how he wrote it. I've seen on 3 different occasions a black shit. I almost said shitter. Okay, that was not exactly how I wrote it. He said, I've seen on 3 different occasions a black shadow figure or mass in my store. The first occasion was in October or November of 2022. And I had just started working there. The store closes at 11 p.m. and my boss said to me, the store is empty and you'll be here by yourself until 4 a.m. when the produce manager arrives. No problem. I have music and enough work to keep me busy.
He was bumping Cheeseburger in Paradise by Jimmy Buffett. I put money on it.
I finished one half of the aisle and I'm 84 feet from my supply cart. That is an oddly specific number to know. 84 feet from my supply cart. And as I stand and turn left, I see what I can describe. He's walking around with a ruler.
He measures it with his dick. Whoa. I know I was exactly... my dick, I was at least 2 dick lengths away.
I was 4 inches away. So, I see what I can describe as a head poke around the corner. Not a dickhead or real person head. Like when a customer is trying to see what may be down a certain aisle, thinking it may be a customer, I begin to walk down. What I then saw was a black shadow figure move right to left and towards the self-checkout. And I know this isn't part of the Wilmington shit. I just thought it was a cool story. I sprint to the end of the aisle and look down the main area of the store, and no one is in sight. All of a sudden, it dawns on me that the store doesn't have lights on. And I pull out my phone, so it's currently 12:30 a.m. So you've been there alone an hour and a half of Wednesday morning, and we have been closed for 90 minutes. In that moment, I was terrified. I was alone at the store and had just seen something I cannot explain. I refused to look up the rest of the night and was overjoyed when my coworkers arrived at 4 a.m. I've had other encounters there, as have other coworkers, and I'd be happy to share them if you so desire. I've told my bosses about this encounter. It's so vivid in my head. They tend to play it off as it's just Casper the friendly ghost, or just not believe me. Whatever it is in that store isn't malevolent.
Where's it at? Sorry, I'm still teaching him.
No, I don't think he spelled it right.
Yeah, he didn't spell it right.
But it is malevolent, right?
What he means is it's not evil.
Yeah, I know what he means.
Malevolent is what he's trying to say.
But it's creepy enough to be there alone at 3 a.m. and I don't like being there unless I have someone else with me. And I texted him, I replied, I said, thank you so much for sharing. If you ever want to come on the podcast and share a story, you're more than welcome to. And he said, you're welcome. I'd be thrilled to share more stories. These are really only specific to Winston-Salem and the area I work. Nonetheless, thank you for sharing. But obviously, I mean, we're doing stories on North Carolina. Eventually, we'll have a story that probably pertains to Winston-Salem, and his input will be valid. And if you're listening, it's not that that we didn't want you on the podcast, but just I feel like this episode doesn't pertain to that kind of...
Maybe with a different one we can get. But I just wanted to say, fucking grocery prices are too high when fucking ghosts are popping up. He's probably pissed you can't even eat a goddamn tomato sandwich anymore without spending a bunch of cold hard cash. That motherfucker popped up from behind the register. Take down the prices, they're too fucking high. I mean, how are you going to get some hamburger helper on a paper plate when shit is so expensive?
Cody's going to read this, and then I have one more. And then then we should be...
Round Dog 5314.
Reading their names is crazy.
Well, I'm giving them a shout out.
You are.
Because they actually left real comments or something funny worthy of talking about. So it's a way of giving them a shout out. So shout out to you, Round Dog. We toured the Battleship once during summer. We were among about random 5 or 6 others who happened to be on the boat that day. We all went our separate ways. There's something going on in there. You could just feel it. We hit same spots where the temperature cooled noticeably, an eerie feeling for sure. So it feels like they had a weird feeling.
Yeah.
And I was going to say, so my mom actually went there, and I asked my mom, about it, what did she feel about it? And she told me it was just a big-ass old boat, and it didn't feel creepy. But my mom's not really.
What else did she say?
Okay, I'll say it. My mom looked, because I told her about what people were saying on there, and this is, for quote, what she said. It was just a big-ass old boat. It wasn't creepy at all, and no ghost tried to eat my ass. That's exactly what she said.
And so, for the last one I'm going to read...
last but not least.
It's this guy or gal. They said, no, because I'm firmly rooted in reality. But... somebody commented back to them people. They replied to him. And it was actually the crazy cat guy.
Okay.
Then we've already read his comment. Thank you. Shout out to him. He said, damn, you can't have a bit of fun, can you? They asked a question about paranormal activity in an overall haunted city, Wilmington. The whole city has its own stories and history rooted in the paranormal activity. And the guy actually... Oh, this is the comment that the guy deleted. He got 26 downvotes. And the North Carolina mod team...
Get him out of here!
It was the North Carolina mod team right here. It says, your comment was removed because they violated our number 1 rule.
Get him out of here!
No personal attacks.
It said what?
It said that they removed his comment because it violated their number 1 rule, no personal attacks.
Yeah, because you're a bitch.
And my exact words to them were, we are the guy that told us that we need to get jobs because we're fucking
the guy that works at Radio Shack.
I said, we are both blue-collared workers. The podcast is something we do for fun, but thank you for showing interest in our personal lives. He got downvoted 26 times, and got removed.
I hope he gets fired.
See, these are my favorite comments. Somebody commented like, I had to pee, and this person just commented yes and nothing else.
Yeah, but at least
which is
they
cool,
weren't
but
sneak dissing.
at least they weren't being cocksuckers. I mean, realistically. And this person, she was commenting like she listened to, like she just clicked through the first 3 episodes real quick, and she was like, yeah, but I think my husband would enjoy this, and sent it to her husband. Mm-hmm. And people like that, I mean, thank you. Thank you a lot. And I mean, even the people that said literally nothing, I mean, at least you're not trying to be a hater. I mean, by no means. You're being realistic. And I mean, honestly, that's how, if you asked me that question in person, that's probably what I'd say. Yeah. If I had been there and experienced nothing, I'd say no, I haven't. Yeah. And I mean, but on Reddit, it gives you a, you know, it's,
yeah, but that
it's
guy,
different.
That shit.
That guy was just a
he
asshole.
was just running. His
he was just being
mouth.
He's
a bitch. I hope he gets fired from Radio Shack tomorrow for stealing walkie-talkies.
100%.
Get him the fuck out of here. You're out. That's what they used to say in baseball.
You're out.
You're out of here. He got ejected from the game because he's a bitch ass. But that was a great topic. Again,
it was.
The USS
and I think our camera just quit recording.
That's okay because it got us through the whole thing. I mean, they're only going to see. And I was going to say, again, shout out to Jim Hall for coming on. We'll have to do something with him again.
Yeah, we I'm not going to say what, but we are working on something with him, and if it works out, it'll be fucking amazing.
And go check out his stuff.
And 100%.
You'll hear it. What we're gonna do, because when we were interviewing him, we weren't necessarily all in the camera. So what we're gonna do is take the cover art for that part, because there's really nothing to see, and we're gonna put that on the end. But please go check out his interview. It was really good,
dude,
and he was a really,
I mean,
like I said, he was really cool. He answered questions about his favorite pro wrestler.
Dude, I could have probably.
We talked about John Cena.
I literally could have asked him like, "What'd you eat for dinner last night?" He would have told us.
He would have told you. He
was genuinely a good guy, and I hope it blossoms into more than just, you know, a podcast interview, because you know, he has both of our numbers now. Yeah. And he, like, when I texted him, and I was like, I'm sorry, you know, we're having an issue with the mic or whatever. And he was like, you know, that's completely fine. Like, I'm not in a hurry. Like, you're fine.
And he had no trouble with the fact you couldn't read. And I thought that was really nice of it.
Exactly. And you know what? I got hired at my job because I can't read, but I fix shit. And you don't need to read to turn a wrench, brother.
No, you don't need to read anything. You can read my mind. I'm horny.
That's
all you need to know.
I can see you're pitching a tent.
I was gonna say
that's why he keeps the camera up here, so you can't see when we're pitching a tent.
I'm just fully erect the whole episode. Exactly. But I was gonna say, so check out his interview after this episode. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram, TikTok,
MySpace.
We
might be making a Twitter soon. Honestly,
we might make Twitter. We might make a Twitter.
You know what? Go follow us on Reddit now. Yeah, it'll all be linked below.
Go follow us on Reddit, because I think every time we do an episode,
I'm going to look for somebody.
Because that was that, and we won't.
And I mean, obviously, we're not going to get a Jim Hall interview every time. I mean, honestly, the thing that I was most worried about is like somebody coming on and just saying something stupid, and then it's like, like wasting my time. But I mean,
because the stupid shit's for us.
Yeah, and no, not like that. I was talking about
like being too much,
like just saying something like downright like saying a racial slur or something stupid.
No, fuck, dude, we'll throw you off of here
in a heartbeat. Like that,
you're out. We'll moderate. You're out.
Like that's obviously you can come on here and say whatever the fuck you want, but you're not gonna be homophobic. You're not gonna be racist. You're not gonna say stuff about people's religion. You can't call me the P word. I'll tell you that.
Or we're gonna you're out. Yeah, but have a do. You're through. We're gonna throw them right out. But I was gonna say
you can come on here and call us literally fucking idiots.
Yeah.
But if you fucking say a racial slur or even the R word, you're gone.
We're gonna moderate you. And when I say moderate you, we're gonna throw you right out of this motherfucker. And literally, I will come through the screen, not come like Jism.
Oh no, I'm gonna come.
I will come through. Well, you probably will come when you see.
I'm gonna come on your back while you're going.
I'm gonna poltergeist like the movie, straight through the screen and throw you out of your own living room.
Oh yeah.
And 100%. I will fucking body slam a bitch. I will throw him right out of
body slamming BBWs on it. Boom,
boom, right through this fucking table.
And by the way, Ric Flair drip go.
And I was gonna say we're
What a
gonna go
bitch.
live every time. Go to YouTube and subscribe so we can again.
Yes,
get to
we
our
really
thing.
would prefer to go live on YouTube.
That
but right
way
now
you
that's
can
not an
comment.
option.
But also too, I was gonna say in all honesty, I'm not like super mad at nobody for not being on
Yeah,
here
no, we were
because
just
it's the
kidding.
first time we ever did it, and we just wanted to do it for the fun of it. But we'll figure it out. But I was gonna say like, the more we go live and shit, the more people will catch on because people do watch our shit after the fact.
Yeah, exactly. And
bitch, we know Bojangles it's not closed, so you might be at work. We understand. Watch this shit at Bojangles, bitch.
And also thank anybody who's listening genuinely.
Yeah,
If-
we love you like in a hot way, like a steamy way.
I would love for y'all to like and subscribe. Or honestly, you don't gotta like it. Just subscribe. Get us to 50.
Yeah,
so we
just
can go
get us to
live.
50 and then you
And you don't even gotta watch the videos. I mean, I'd prefer you to, but
just go
I'm
to
not a
clocked
beggar.
out. Just go to clocked out combos.
beggars
and-
can't be choosers.
Beggars
am I
can't
right?
be choosers. Make a bunch of fucking accounts and just get us to 50. Maybe we'll send you a
Literally
Moby
make
Huge
50
in the mail.
accounts. Dude.
We'll send you a Moby Huge in the mail.
I'm telling you what, I can't remember what the fuck I was talking about.
And
last
no, we're
episode,
not
but
single.
We're gonna do it.
So, this little lady right here, Erin B. Helm said, "Are y'all single?" No, we date, and you should know that. We date.
We are a thing. We're
Yeah.
a item. Everybody should know that. That's why we both wear hats. He wears these glasses on so you can't see when he's looking down at my fucking tits.
No, I'm missing
I mean,
both
that's
of my
what it is.
eyes. That's why I wear these. I don't have any eyes, and I don't want nobody to see it. My eyes got. I used to weld. They called me the Westward Welder, and I used to weld eyes wide open, staring at it. Can't see anymore.
No helmet.
No, I'm just kidding. I got eyes. I see you. But anyway, thank you guys for tuning in to another shitty episode.
I have one question before we end.
Okay, go ahead.
Did your knuckles hurt?
Did your knuckles hurt? Are you still getting that face tat?
Yeah, I am. Of Joe Biden's penis right across my
Oh,
fucking-
I think
right
that
across
would
my
look.
cheek.
I think that would look really good.
It would look phenomenal, I think.
I think it would. I'd like to go with you when you do it.
We can go. I am looking to get drunk and get another tattoo.
Yeah,
so
and bleed out on the table. You'll be bleeding out like a goddamn Civil War soldier.
I don't give a fuck.
Goddamn, who blew his leg off with a musket? He's just drunk.
Uh-oh. Mom's calling.
I'll call her back here in a second. But anyway, guys, thank you for tuning in. It was a pleasure.
It was great.
It was a blast. We were here for a good time and kind of a long time this time.
2 hours.
Go sweep your neighbor's porch, as I always remind you guys to do. Go tell your mother she's beautiful. Go tell your daddy's handsome. John Cena's life.
If you have a wife, buy her fucking flowers this week.
Buy
She
her the
earned
fake
it.
ones, or buy her ones infested with ants. Buy her ones infested with ants.
If you have a wife, buy her flowers. Unless she's a bitch, then just spit on her.
Or
Like,
if
don't
you're-
spit on her. That's
or
too much.
if your house has roaches, instead of buying her flowers, pay for a spray service. That'll jiffy her right up. That'll give her a big old smile on her face.
It will.
But anyway,
Spit in
guys,
her mouth when you fuck her tonight. Peace.
that's real. Anyway, guys, see you on the next one. It's been a blast. Kiss my ass, and we're out. Woo! All right.
You know my balls are actually bigger.
Are we
than my
recording
dick.
up there?
We're recording here, there, everywhere. We're here, there, we're everywhere.
I'm gonna get a camera and hang it off the roof.
Here goes our interview with Jim Hall.
Summer said, "Wow, I can't believe y'all noticed the little people."
Jim Hall, here he comes. It's 6:01, we're late. Hello, Jimothy.
Hello?
Hey, is this Jim Hall?
Yes, it is.
Hey, this is Steven and Cody from Clocked Out Conversations.
Hey, how are you?
Hey, we're doing good. We were just reaching out.
You're good. I'm just fixing
Okay,
the audio.
I thought we weren't even. Yeah, no. We seen that. The Reddit obviously, and you said that you were the first paranormal group to interview or what's the word? Investigate. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, we the first group go in, At the time, our group was known as 7 Paranormal Research. We went in 2002. We were the first group to be invited to do that. Eventually, we changed our name to Haunted North Carolina, which is a little more PR friendly, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
We like I said, we were the ones that set up the TV show Ghost Hunters to come out there. We had a relationship with the Battleship for a long time. Basically up until they, Danny Bradshaw retired, and then they just kind of, started doing a lot of, pay for play, charging people to, $500 to come out and spend the night on the Battleship, So we had like I said, we had a relationship with it for a long time.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
And over the time, of course, we had a lot of different types of experiences on the ship that, we could talk about.
So what, and this is Cody, by the way, sorry, I was fixing the audio a second ago. What, when you the first time you ever got to go inside of it, what was your first, did you feel obviously there's a lot of history to it. So did you feel, how you've been a place before and you can just feel the history there?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So when we first started going out there, like I said, I believe it was 2002. So much of the ship was not renovated and turned into a museum yet. I mean, they had their parts that were open to the public, and much more of it is open to the public now than it was back then. Back then, just there was very tiny little portion that the public could go to. We had access to the entire ship in parts that were very difficult to get around in.
Yeah.
And you would go in and there would be one room, for example, that was just stacked wall to wall with helmets,
Wow.
with military helmets, and you just go in there and just be like, wow, this isn't a surplus store. These are things that people that saw action, and the Battleship saw a lot of action in World War II. And these were things that people were getting shot at, and you've heard the stories. The ship was hit by a torpedo. And,
yeah.
Things like that. This is all stuff that this was real. You go in now, and and it's a wonderful place to visit. I'm not trying to downplay or diminish anything about the Battleship.
Uh-huh.
But it's very cleaned up and sanitized and made nice for the public to come through and enjoy. We got to see it kind of when it was more raw. Like I said, they told us when we first went out there, there were some places that we were going into that no one had set foot in for 50 years, basically, at that point.
That's crazy. Yeah, that would be wild to get to go in there before, like you said, before it became such a tourist attraction. And to get to see the remnants of everything that's left there. That's crazy. So I was gonna say I was listening to another podcast about it, and they said that the bottom of the ship, now I don't know how true this is because I've never got to go. They said that the bottom of the ship is almost rusted out. Is that true from sitting so long?
I imagine it would be. I know that so when you go out there, the bottom of the ship is actually embedded in the ground. So
wow.
It's on a little tiny little tributary off of the Cape Fear River,
mm-hmm.
and it's not, and the ship is not floating. It is surrounded by water, but like I said, the ship is deep in the mud. If they ever wanted to move the ship, and there was talk a few years back about them trying to move the ship up to Norfolk, Virginia,
uh-huh.
and renovate it. That was just going to be too expensive, and they just ultimately decided not to do that. But I imagine sitting for that long in the mud that it is probably
worn.
It's probably worn. It's probably not seaworthy anymore.
Oh yeah, and I was gonna say too. What else was it that? Didn't they originally, when the war was over, weren't they gonna decommission it? Well, obviously decommission, but weren't they gonna send it to they were gonna destroy it, weren't they?
They were going to break it down for scrap, and the state of North Carolina, because it was named for the state of North Carolina, but it wasn't actually from here. It was built in New York City, or near New York City, and then saw action in the Pacific during the war, and then when all said and done, they were just going to break it down for scrap. But there was a big, and I want to say this was a while after the war. It wasn't like immediately after, but state of North Carolina, there was a big push to basically purchase the ship and bring it in and turn it into a museum and tourist attraction.
That's cool. I'm glad that they didn't tear it down. I feel like there's so much history with it. It's like, know what I mean? Like that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Have you ever been on the ship? I mean, it's an amazing thing to visit, and it's a maze. It's easy to get lost on it.
I've never got to go to it personally, which I would love to. But yeah, my mom went to it. Somebody else. Oh, Aaron went to it. I was gonna say, but I've never, for whatever reason, I've never made it out there to it. But I need to though, because I'm really into World War II history, and the paranormal and stuff. So it's definitely somewhere I need to go visit and check out.
Yeah, I highly recommend it. It's like I said, it's worth the trip. It was a little bit cooler, like I said, back when we had the opportunity to, and by the way, what we were doing, going into those areas that, weren't open to the public at that time, it was a little risky because now you go out there and, they've got, areas cordoned off and, easy access, handicap accessible, ramps and stairways. There were places where we were having to lug equipment up and down these ladders that would and it was just like a hatch after hatch after hatch that were all open, and you're looking 6 decks down, and you slip and fall off that ladder, and you're going
down
50 feet, 50 feet and banging your head off of metal, which by the way is how one of the soldiers that died on the Battleship was falling down one of those hatches.
Oh man. I can't imagine falling that far.
Well, he fell. What happened is, if you go to the Battleship, there's these. They look kind of like steel girders that go all through the ship, and they are they're tracks. And what they would do is they would hang munitions on these tracks to move them around from one part of the ship to the other, to take them from the weapon magazine storage to the big cannons and the big guns where they would need to be fired. And there was one that was near the galley. So a soldier was coming up one of those ladders, going up 3 or 4 levels, and above it was one of the tracks. And as he was coming up the ladder, they were moving munitions, and the shell it broke loose. The shell fell down the hatch, hit him in the head, knocked him off the ladder, and then took him down 3 or 4 stories, and unfortunately killed him.
Yeah, that's no good. I was gonna say, so when you went in and everything, what was, like, in your opinion, like, what's the first experience that you guys had there? Because I'm sure y'all had multiple experiences there.
So, being completely honest, the first time we ever went out there, we got nothing. I mean, it was interesting. It was a fun night, because, like I said, brand new, first group to ever be able to do it, exploring the ship. But we got nothing. No experiences, no personal experiences, no evidence. We didn't collect any EVP, that stands for electronic voice phenomena. Nothing on video, nothing. And that happened a couple of times. We kept going out, and we were kind of frustrated. We were like, we're not getting anything out here. We've heard all these stories, from Danny Bradshaw. And if you've ever read his book, Ghosts of the Battleship, North Carolina, he reports, seeing apparitions with flaming hair and things like that. And we weren't getting anything. And then I think it was the third time we went out there, we had no success. Nothing had happened. And we were getting ready to pack up for the night. And one of my partner, the guy who was the co-director with me, his name was David Gurney. We were somewhere near the brig. I remember that. And we were packing up all of our equipment. And we were all, frustrated, like we were making these trips and, being afforded this opportunity, and we just weren't finding anything. And he just, kind of says out loud, some people, when they do these investigations, they think it's kind of a best practice to announce your intentions, so that if there is sorry, that beeping.
No, you're fine.
Fine.
I'm sorry. It's just the
camera's going crazy on us right now. My fault, man.
It's fine. To announce your intentions, if there is something conscious there that's, that's aware of your presence, and you tell them what you're doing. We're here to talk to you. If you want to, give us some kind of sign that you're here and you're listening, and then at the end of the night, you say, okay, we're leaving now. Just basically you're speaking to the air, right? You're just announcing your intentions.
Yeah.
We were all frustrated, and David says, well, all right, we're leaving now. That's it. This is your last chance. If you want to show yourself, unless you're too, I don't know if I can curse on your podcast.
No, you can say, dude, you can say whatever you want to.
Okay. Well, he said, we're leaving now unless you're too chicken shit. and next thing you know, something comes along and just flattens David. I mean, it looked like he was taking a pro wrestling WWE. He
got John Cena.
Exactly. Like Randy Orton came along and gave him the RKO.
Fucking RKO.
And we were like, what in the world? And of course, next thing you know, we're all questioning. Well, did he fake that? I mean, David wouldn't fake something like that. I mean, we all know David. David wouldn't do that. And plus, he's not that good. He's not a pro wrestler. He doesn't know how to take a bump like that. So that was like the very first thing that ever happened, was him just getting smacked. And then after that, here's where things get interesting. So I told you the story about the person who was coming up to the galley to go to breakfast, and the shell dropped on him. Well, we had been told the first time we went out there, the first couple of times, that had happened in a completely different part of the ship.
Yeah.
And we've been investigating, in location A this entire time. Well, we came out there, and this time we were actually working with Danny. And because Danny, he lived on the ship, but he had nights off, and we would have a chance to talk to him, and then he'd go to his quarters, and he didn't want to follow us around all night. He wanted to get some sleep.
Yeah.
Well, Danny says, oh no, where that happened, that wasn't over there, that was right here. And he showed us the location where it actually happened. If you go down those hatches, it leads right to that spot near the brig where David got flattened. And so, we were getting nothing happening because we were looking in the wrong spot on the ship. And when we found out we were looking in the right spot on the ship, it correlated with a significant event. And so, that sort of guided where we went from there. So, in further investigations, we had people that experienced, we saw wet footprints that went from, down a hallway and then straight into a wall, and then stopped. We've got EVP. Like I said, we had the crew from Ghost Hunters come down. We were actually on that episode.
That's cool.
We got an EVP on that episode that actually happened after filming had stopped for the night.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, we also we've had things happen. We've heard sounds. Now, one thing I will say, to sort of qualify all this, is that the Battleship is a huge place. There's only really one way on or off, but there's lots of places where someone, if there was someone who was there during business hours, where someone could hide and be on the ship if they knew, that someone was going to be out there investigating. So if there was someone who wanted to play a prank or, had mischievous intent, there's lots of ways that people could be on the ship. So we tended not to get too worked up over sounds. Plus, it's a huge metal ship.
Yeah, there's gonna be
You
some
know,
sounds.
there's going to be knocking and pinging, and just, you know, as it cools down at night and the metal contracts, you know, you're going to have all that kind of stuff, you know. But there's a difference between that and you know, running a tape recorder while you're investigating, and then playing the tape back and hearing a voice actually on the tape louder than your own voice, saying get off the ship, you know. So
it made it
you know,
a little more undeniable compared to, like you said, like something just going, you know, making a noise, like your typical mundane noise,
banging, knocking, stuff like that. You know, you just kind of ignore that, because you just figure that's just, you know, old houses make noises.
Yeah,
so
old houses creak.
Oh yeah, they settle, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I imagine that, you know, ships probably do the same thing.
Oh yeah. So I was gonna ask, and then I'll let Steven get in here and ask some questions. I was gonna ask, what is, like, when you guys investigated, what was the most hot area, like, that had the most activity?
There were a couple of them. So one, like I said, was down near the brig, and it was sort of underneath. I guess, you know, the brig was like 3 levels down. You know, I don't know the actual naval term, decks, you know, floors, but about 3 levels down from where the galley was.
Mm-hmm.
That seemed to be a hot location. The galley itself seemed to be kind of a hot location near where that shell had fallen.
Mm-hmm.
Ironically, one of the places that was not a hot location for us was the most famous story that happened during the war, and that was when the torpedo struck the ship, blew a hole in the hull, and there was, I can't remember if it was 2 or 3 people that were in the shower at the time.
Uh-huh.
That was where the torpedo struck, was like where the bathroom, where the showers were. And there was, like, I want to say it was 3 people that died in that torpedo strike.
Yeah.
If not immediately, but then, you know, as the you know, they cordoned off that section, and as it flooded, we never ever got anything there. But we got, you know, we had activity in the sick bay. So like I said, there's various locations on the ship where things have happened. And the strangest thing to me is, you know, a lot of what other people have reported, including Danny in his book, have been apparitions, you know, have been seen, you know, people, you know, in, you know, period dress, you know, in a sailor's uniform. And we're not talking, you know, reenactors. We're talking about, like, when Danny was on the ship alone at night. We never experienced any apparitions, any members of our team. We did have one person, and, you know, we debate even within our organization the validity of someone that gets, like, you know, a psychic impression or sensitive impression, because if it's not, you know, correlated or backed up by any other evidence, then it's just somebody's gut feeling, you know, and you can't really go off of that. And there was one night we were there, and we had one of the you know, the docents with us, and we were in the sick bay, and this person said, I can't, the smell in here is killing me. And we're like, what smell? What are you talking about? She goes, you don't smell that? It's like, no. What smell? She goes, it's like a rot, like someone, like, burned the bacon. I said, you don't smell that? I'm like, no. And we're like, burn the bacon. And I went to the docent, and I said, you know, was there anyone ever in here with severe burns, like any of the people who died with the severe burns? And she said, not that I'm aware of, but I'll go back and I'll check our records and see what I can find out. And she did that and got back to us a couple of weeks later. You know, this wasn't an immediate thing, but she says, well, you know, none of the soldiers that served aboard the North Carolina died from burns, but there was a soldier who was transferred from another ship that had gone down that had been badly burned and died in the sick bay. And this wasn't even part of the story. You know, this is what, you know, like I said, she had to literally, like, research this and look this up to find this out. And so, you know, things like that would happen. And like I said, it's always interesting when things kind of correlate and line up like that. Because, you know, just, I smell a bad smell. Well, no one else does. And that's, you know, completely your subjective, but your subjective experience. But when it correlates to something that no one knew about, or at least, hadn't known about since the war,
Yeah.
That kind of makes it a little bit more interesting.
Yeah, that gives some validity to it. Because, like you said, it'd be, and also too, that story, like you said, that wasn't like one of the known, that soldier. It wasn't like one of the, or Navy member. It wasn't a known thing really.
Yeah, it wasn't in Danny's book. It wasn't one of the, back in those days when you went on, websites and message boards and were finding out people's experience. No one was talking about this particular thing. Everyone talked about, the soldiers that died in the torpedo hit, or the person who died with the shell falling on them.
Yeah.
No one was talking about that at all.
That's crazy. That's wild. Steven, you got some questions you like to ask?
I did. So clearly, if you can't tell, Cody on the podcast, I mean, we co-host. I do a lot of the social media, I guess. Cody's more of a people person, sort of. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
But you did say that you were on an episode of Ghost Hunters.
Yes.
Were those guys so you met the crew and whatever?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
We'd had a relationship with Jason Hawes and the TAPS organization, the Atlantic Paranormal Society. That's the group that's in the show Ghost Hunters.
Yeah.
That predated the show. So we had, under our previous name, Seven Paranormal Research, we were members of the TAPS nationwide network. They call it the TAPS family. And like I said, we'd had a relationship with them going back years. So we, actually knew and had spoken to Jason several times before that. The whole crew, I got to meet the rest of them when they came down.
Yeah.
I got, mostly great things to say about them, and mostly great things to say about the production crew. I think I've worked with so many production crews, I forget. I think that was Pilgrim Films that was doing that. Just a little peek behind the curtain about the way these shows are shot, or at least the way they were shot in 2004, which is when we filmed that episode. If you watch the episode, and I don't know, so if you search it now in the Ghost, wherever Ghost Hunters is streaming, it's just called Battleship North Carolina Mordecai House, because we also went to the Mordecai House in Raleigh.
Yeah.
And when you watch it, it makes it seem like it was this spontaneous thing, where, one day they just called us up and said, hey, we're going to come down to North Carolina. Do you have a couple places for us to go visit? And in reality, that the whole thing had been in the works for about 2 years. I mean, there was 2 years of negotiations and contracts and all kinds of stuff. So there was nothing spontaneous about it. So that part of the show, they don't use the word fake in their business. They use the word constructed reality.
Yeah.
So it was definitely not a spontaneous thing. Like I said, it had been in the works for quite some time.
I got you.
But when it came time to investigate, they just follow you around. So to my knowledge, no one was faking anything. No one was playing any pranks or trying to like I said, I have mostly great things to say about them. The only thing I would say is that the editing, after they've shot all the footage, and we shot for 5 days. We did 2 days on the Battleship. We did 1 day in Raleigh at the Mordecai House. Before the Battleship, Jason and Grant and their crew, they did 1 day in Raleigh, just doing setup. Basically, here's a scene of us in a local Raleigh restaurant talking about what we're going to be doing. And then they did 1 day of pickups, which is where, we need to get everybody together to sort of, we need you to elaborate on this thing that happened a little bit more, and so it was 5 days of shooting. The editing makes it seem a lot scarier and a lot more happened than actually did.
I got you.
And that's, like I said, I've done several of these, and that's the way they all are, because and as one producer, this was not on Ghost Hunters. This was an entirely different thing.
Mm-hmm.
But as one producer and director told me, you know, and this is a quote, and this was after, you know, another week-long shoot, and where, you know, we weren't getting a whole lot of stuff, because most paranormal investigations don't yield a whole lot of activity and a whole lot of evidence. It's just, you know, it's the 99% rule. 99% of the time you're going to get nothing.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, he pulled me aside and he said, hey, look, Pepsi's not going to buy ad time on a show where nothing happens.
Yeah.
And so, you know, those shows are fun. You have to take them with a big grain of salt. But I will say that as far as the actual investigation, they were, you know, like I said, they just followed you around with a camera. Every now and then they might stop you and say, hey, can you repeat what you just said? Because we couldn't pick that up. They weren't, you know, interfering with what you were doing.
Yeah.
Then it's put together with spooky music, and, you know, there was one thing that happened while we were shooting, and we were all split up into different teams, because, like I said, it's a big place. So you had this group of 3 people that were in the galley. You had this group of 3 people that were down in the showers, and you had this group of, you know, 3 or 4 people that were down in the brig. And
Yes,
we were in the galley, and we heard this loud bang, and we walk around to see what made that bang, and there's these giant vats, like they're big pots, you know, because, you know, when they were cooking meals, they were cooking for, you know, 1,000 men.
Oh, yeah.
And so these giant pots, and the lids are just on these hinges, and the hinges are hooked to the wall, and one of those had slammed shut. And, you know, of course, that's something that happened. We checked around to see if there was anyone else around, if there was one of the other groups that had walked through. You know, end of the day, we said, well, that was interesting, but it was the lid of a pot that fell.
Exactly.
You know, I have things in my house that, you know, fall off a shelf all the time because, you know,
Yeah.
train went by two blocks away.
It's like when the ice maker goes off at 2 a.m. It's kind of scary, but you know what it is. You know what I mean?
Exactly. In our house, we have one of those in the bathroom, automatic odor fragrant.
Yeah.
What do you call those things? Things that, you know, goes off like every 9 minutes.
Yeah.
and if, in the middle of the night, that scares the crap out of me.
Oh yeah.
Make you jump.
But you know, when you watch the episode, they make it seem like it was this really significant, like, you know, they make a big deal out of that. And at the time when we were shooting, I was like, oh, well, you know, the lid of the pot fell. You know, could have been something, could have just been, you know, a vibration in the ship that knocked it loose, you know, so
Exactly.
there was that. The EVP we got was interesting, because they can only shoot for a certain number of hours per day. The camera crew, they're all, you know, they're union workers, and they had like a hard limit. It's like, you know, we have to be done by, you know, X o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
And we were, you know, they were done for the night. The crew, the featured players from Ghost Hunters, they were all going back to a hotel. David and I volunteered to stay on the ship, because we wanted to, you know, if something happened, we wanted to be there. And also we wanted to make sure there wasn't anybody out there messing around. So we were kind of like, you know, on security guard duty, staying on the ship. And a couple of the cast members stayed back with us. We're like, no, well, you know, we're kind of wired. We're not ready to go to bed yet. So, you know, we're going to hang out with you for a while. And we you know, we did some stupid stuff. Andy and I went climbing all over the ship. Like there was this one radar tower that we climbed up, you know, completely irresponsible. I was much younger and more nimble then. Because you think about this, 20 years ago at this point.
That's crazy.
Yeah, no,
That's
it's
wild
crazy
to think
because
about.
Cody he's 9 years older than me. And when you say 2004, in the back of my head, all I'm thinking is I was 2 years old. Like I never, you know what I mean? I was literally 2 years old.
Yeah. I guess I would have been 34, 35 at the time.
Yeah.
but we're doing silly stuff like that, and then Dustin, one of the team members, at one point says, "Hey, show me, where where the showers were," because at that point in time they were not accessible to the public. This was one of those things where you had to go down 6 floors, and then you had to navigate around this narrow corridor and all this kind of stuff. And I was like, and we weren't carrying equipment, we didn't have a camera crew with us. So I was like, yeah, well, if you just want to go see it, yeah, come on, let's go.
Mm-hmm.
One thing you learn on a paranormal investigation is that you're always recording. You always, if nothing else, you always have a digital recorder. We were even back in 2004, we were digital.
Yep.
And you always have a digital recorder going, and I just had it clipped on my belt, so I had my hands free, because like I said, you're going down these old oily ladders, and if you slip and fall, it's a 6-story drop. And so we're doing all this, and we get to this one place where basically we had like our choice of going down these steps or going to the right down this corridor. We had a couple of different ways that we could go. And it's just me and Dustin down there. And you hear me say, all right, well, which way do you want to go? We can get there either way. This way is a little bit shorter, but it's a tougher climb. You can go around this way, but it's going to take us longer to get there. And while I'm talking, you hear a voice over mine that's louder than my voice, that says, "Get off the ship." This was not audible to our ears. This was only on playback on the recorder.
Yeah. It's like when you take a picture and then, you see something in the background that you never seen with your naked eye or whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So like I said, that night we didn't hear anything. We went down, we showed them the showers, we went back up. They left. David and I went to bed. Nothing happened. The next morning, while I was, you do a million things while you're reviewing evidence. Evidence review is very, very boring.
Mm-hmm.
And so typically what you do is you just put your headphones on and you go about your day, and if like you're at home doing this stuff, you're walking around, you're folding laundry and all that stuff while you're listening to the evidence. I was just hanging out on the ship because I was still, I was up early. I'm an early riser, always have been. The crew wasn't going to be out there till like 2 p.m. This was like, 8 in the morning, and I'm just tooling around, walking around the ship. There's going to be people on the ship, so I'm just kind of, walking around the ship, got my headphones on, and I hear that, and like immediately called them up. It's like, okay, so we got something. I don't know if you want to use it or not. Here it is, and I gave them, put it on my computer, put it on a flash drive, gave it to them. That I think was really the only thing that came out of that whole episode. And like I said, we got the banging pot lid, which I'm not convinced is anything. Nothing happened at Mordecai House because everybody got food poisoning from the catering. Which by the way, the TV show, the editing makes it look like something paranormal is happening.
They slipped arsenic in our food.
Suddenly, all of the members of the team are falling ill.
Yeah.
And literally, we had gotten, everybody that had gotten the buffalo chicken salad, everybody who ate the buffalo chicken salad from the catering they brought us, everybody got like deathly sick.
See, but that's cool. It's cool that you don't buy into everything. You have your... You have what you believe, but you don't believe every little thing. You know what I mean? Like
and you can't. The number one job of anybody who does this type of investigation, the number one job is debunking.
Exactly.
Because if you can debunk it, it's debunked.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If you can come up with a reasonable explanation for it, then you have to assume that that's the correct explanation.
Yeah, that's like when I was a kid, man. I remember, like, because, being, like, the paranormal thing's so popular now because of podcasts and TV shows. But, like, when I was younger, like, a lot of people, my age weren't really that into it. They thought it was weird. Now it's so popular. But I used to watch A Haunting all the time when I was a kid. And I love that show, and like back then when it first came out, and there were so many good stories. And you know, when you're a kid, you're real impressionable. Like you're like, wow.
Oh yeah.
And then you really do the history in the back, you know, and you're like, yeah, I think these people were full of shit.
Yeah, realistically.
Yeah, and it's so. Ultimately, I had to kind of stop watching that stuff because being a part of it, I knew how things were cut together and put together, and I don't, like I said, I don't want to blame anybody. I don't want to blame Jason Hawes or Grant Wilson or you know, any of those folks. Like I said, they were great to work with, and like I said, I've known Jason for years. I don't know Grant quite as well, and you know, I've got my own. You know, there's been some things that came out about him and some of the investigations they did in other places that I won't, you know, really get into here. But as far as I know, taping that episode, they didn't pull any shenanigans. But the editing of the show, the production, definitely, you know, plays around with the reality of the truth of what's going on.
Yeah, because like you said,
they're trying to sell a show,
and if it's not scary, it's not going to sell. I mean, an episode called Ghost Hunters. You can't have a show named Ghost Hunters with no damn ghost. You know what I mean? I mean, that's
exactly.
just how it is.
It's entertainment.
Yeah, exactly.
We mentioned, you know, pro wrestling a minute ago. You know, everybody knows that pro wrestling, they're not really, you know, it's not really people trying to beat each other up and trying to pin each other.
It's literally theater.
But it's fun.
It is fun. Especially when you're a kid, you know, like Cody was saying. I mean, if you watch fucking John Cena come off the top rope, it's cool. Just like watching Ghost Hunters. Like, oh my god, these people's basement is haunted. I'm too scared to go down there. You know, it's cool to watch, but you get a little older, you really start looking, and you're like, yeah, well, you know, some things might be real, but they're still probably over-exaggerated. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
So I was gonna say, we don't want to take up a whole lot of your time, but I was gonna say, do you have time for like a couple more questions, and then we'll get out of your hair?
Sure.
Okay, so I wanted to know, like, so we all have like one thing or a show or something that got us into the paranormal. What was the thing that got you into the paranormal?
It's funny you say that because they, like I said, one of those productions that I did for, you know, it wasn't Ghost Hunters. We actually, the one where I said the producer said, you know, Pepsi's not going to buy a show where nothing happens. That was a company that we were shooting our own pilot. Like, we were going to get our own show.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because, you know, you had Ghost Hunters and you had Paranormal State and you had Ghost Adventures and we were going to be legend hunters. I mean, that's a true thing. I could, you know, send you a link to, you know, the show on. I'm sure it's out there somewhere.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Because we shot one episode, and one episode aired, I think it was on Discovery Channel. And in that episode, I talk about what got me into it, and they did a reenactment. And I'll tell this part first, and then I'll tell you the story of how I got into it. It really goes back to things that, you know, happened when I was a child and experiences that I had when I was a child.
Mm-hmm.
And they had me, you know, send, you know, reference photos of myself as a child and my brother as a child, and you know, what my family looked like and what our house looked like. And then the way they presented it was nothing like what happened. Like, why did you even bother having me send reference photos? Because these kids didn't look anything like me. And also the way you present it is not how it happened. Yeah. So when I was very, very young, so young that, you know, you have to doubt my memories of it, but you can't really doubt my older brother's memories of it. Yeah. I was from a small town in Tennessee, Huntington, Tennessee. It's about halfway between Memphis and Nashville.
Okay.
And we lived in this house that had lots of activity. Most of it up in it had a finished attic, and that was one of my brother's bedrooms. Like, I would have been maybe 4 at the time. So like I said, too young to really honestly remember this. I had one brother that I shared a room with. He would have been 9 or 10 at the time, and I had one brother who would have been 17, or he would have been 18, because he was going to college and he was going to seminary in Jackson, Tennessee, to be to become a Methodist minister. Uh-huh. So what started off happening, and like I said, some of this I remember, some of this is I've just heard the stories my whole life. So what started off happening is we would have psychokinetic events, which is just little objects that fly across the room. We had this like little knick-knack shelf, a little tchotchke shelf, and things would fly off of that. And from what I was told, now I never witnessed this myself, but from what my mom told me and what my brother told me, we're not talking about like things would just fall off the shelf.
Yeah.
Like things would be like projectile go across the room off the shelf.
Yeah.
So we're not talking about a big truck went by and rumbled and things fell off. We're talking about like it flew across the room.
Yeah.
There was one time when my brother was making a peanut butter sandwich, and he put the dirty knife in the sink and walked away, and the knife hopped up out of the sink and onto the counter. And my mom comes in, and she says, you don't leave your dirty dishes on the counter, put it in the sink. And he walks over, he's like all mad, it's like I did, and he takes it and kind of sarcastically like slams it into the sink, walks away, it hops out of the sink again. Upstairs in the finished attic, that was my brother and my other brother, the one that was just a few years older than me. We shared that room. And I remember hearing footsteps coming across the room when it was just me and my brother in there, and we were both in bed. I remember like climbing into bed with my brother scared, because something was going on. Eventually, what ended up happening is my oldest brother, the one who was going to seminary to become a minister, he decided he had seen The Exorcist, and so he decided he was going to come in and he was going to, exercise wherever it was.
Oh gosh.
And he goes upstairs and he takes out the Bible and he prays and he reads the 23rd Psalm, and like wind is blowing up there. We go upstairs after he's done, and it looks like a tornado gone through there. Like just toys and books and bed sheets just everywhere. Now, like I said, I was 4 years old. Could my memories be faulty? Could this all just be suggestion? Because I've heard these stories, but it was enough to me an interest in it.
Yeah.
So like I grew up hearing these stories about the haunted house we lived in. Then when I was a teenager, while all my friends were going out on Friday, Saturday night, and drink, finding some spot to drink beer and smoke dope and do all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I was a kid who's like, I'm going out to Crybaby Bridge, and that kind of stuff. And so like I was that kid, or I'm gonna go sneak into the old what was the name of the place in Hillsborough? There was an old antebellum mansion burned down years ago, but it was in Hillsborough, North Carolina. I'm going to go sneak into that place. It had been abandoned for years.
Yeah.
Craig Manor. That was what it was.
I don't think I've ever heard of that. I'll have to look into that one.
It burned. There was nothing paranormal about it burning down. It burned down because there was teenagers partying in there, and they were lighting off fireworks, and it was a 150-year-old house that
and destroyed it.
Yeah, and it
the
burned
cops
down.
were probably happy it burnt down because then they didn't have to deal with it.
That'd be like Jackson Training School. We talked about that.
Oh yeah,
If it
Jackson
burnt
Training
down,
School. Yeah. Have you ever heard of Jackson Training? I'm sure he has.
Probably.
Actually, no, I haven't. Is that in North Carolina?
That's
Yes, sir. It's actually pretty close. I mean, without giving away where we live, it's probably 30 minutes away from us.
It's in Cabarrus County. If you type it in, it'll
come up.
Yeah.
Dude, there's so much stuff on that. It was a boys' home, so but it was crazy because back then, if you got caught like stealing like a pack of Smarties or a candy bar, they'd send you there, and it was like a prison, and they'd beat kids and
they paddled their feet, and there's a lot more to it.
We did an old episode on it before we kind of got a little
more serious
and rebranded, and dude, the things we read and the stories is crazy. There was kids that like died from getting hit by like garbage cans and stuff.
No, garbage truck. It was a
garbage
garbage
my bad,
truck.
not a garbage truck or can, but a garbage truck, and that.
And it's weird because for a while, there was like a sheriff, that would always sit over there or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But then I've seen other people go in there in broad day with cameras, so I don't know the legality of it.
Yeah.
But if I don't know. I think you'd be interested in it.
Yeah, no, it is really cool. It is really cool.
Yeah. I'll definitely check that out. A lot of it, especially as this sort of thing got more popular.
Yeah. Look up if you not to interrupt you. If you look up Stonewall Jackson Training School. Because if you look up Jackson Training School, I'm pretty sure it comes up like 3 different things. But it's called Stonewall Jackson Training School. It's in Concord.
Okay. Oh, I'm in the Burlington area, so that's probably about an hour from me. So that's not too far.
Yeah. It's wild.
Well, what I was going to say is, the people that are going in broad daylight probably had permission, because there was a period of time when a lot of these places, when the paranormal TV shows were kind of blowing up, a lot of these people who own these places, because and this is something I always tell the people that are getting into paranormal investigations, is that any place you think is abandoned, somebody owns it.
Oh, 100%.
It's private property. Somebody somewhere owns it. You never know. Go down to the Register of Deeds, look up who the current owner is, contact them. They may give you permission. And especially like when things started blowing up, a lot of people thought, hey, this might be my cash cow. This might be the thing. If we start having people coming out doing this and we get famous for it, we can start charging people to come out do investigations. So that you might see something like that. And especially now, there's so many of these places.
Oh yeah,
they're pay to play is what we call it now. So
yeah, like the Perrin house, like the Conjuring, and then like the Hillsdale house in New York.
My thing is, I find it cool, but I've always been. Do you believe that like if you say we were to go to Stonewall Jackson's house or training school, my bad, and sorry, I'm this is our first interview, and I'm not like deathly nervous or nothing. I don't know what's going on with me right now. But so say we went to like Stonewall Jackson Training School, and we were like, just hanging out, recording an episode or something, just doing something cool in there. And I always feel like something's gonna follow you back. You know what I'm trying to say?
I know what you're talking about.
I don't know how much I believe that, but it's always just in the back of my mind. Like, will something follow me back? You know what I'm trying to say? Do you believe in that kind of thing?
At one point in time when I was a teenager, I did. I can tell you that when I started doing this, and by the way, I don't use the word professionally because there is no such thing as a professional ghost hunter.
Yeah.
But when I started doing it more seriously as scientific research, I've been doing this for, going on 30 years now, and, nothing's ever followed me back.
Cool.
There's 2 things that I try to really get across to people. Number one, what we do is actually incredibly boring. It's sitting in the dark in a place. Most of the time, if you are scared, it's because you were freaking yourself out.
Yeah.
So what we do is actually incredibly boring. It's very tedious work. Sometimes it can yield interesting results. And the other thing is, and this is, mostly what we do now is, what are called, residential investigations. Somebody contacts us and says, hey, there's something going on at my house that I currently live in. Can you come check it out? And sometimes those people are scared. They're frightened. And the other thing I try to get across to them is like, there is no such thing as a paranormal emergency.
Yeah.
It does not exist, because if people were actually being harmed by this type of activity, you would have heard about it by now. It would be news.
Yeah.
100%.
And so I don't particularly worry about things from members that are concerned about that. They'll do things like they'll say a prayer, or if they're not particularly religious, they'll like I said, you'll just kind of speak out your intentions. I'm leaving now. Have a good time. Enjoy your afterlife. Stay here. But I've never felt the need to do that, and I've never had anything.
Yes,
I almost wish it would, because it'd be so much easier to investigate something happening at my own house than
than having
to drive an hour and a half to to go somewhere.
Yeah. I do have. So this is, I don't know if Cody has anything, but I do have another question for you. So do you believe in? Obviously, I don't. Do you believe in like, what am I trying to say? Like poltergeist, like crazy, like a demonic kind of thing, and like possessions and stuff, or do you just think that that's for the TV?
Okay. Well, you asked two different questions there.
Yes, sir. I know, but I was, yeah. But I mean, obviously, there's a demonic kind of
Field of paranormal means something different than what most people think it means.
Yes, sir.
It's just a colloquial term for what we call recurrent spontaneous psychokinesis. It's RSPK. It's just when you're referring to poltergeist activity, you're referring to the movement of objects. That's where you get the things that fly. What we were experiencing in my house when I was a kid would have been called a poltergeist type activity or poltergeist type haunting.
Yeah.
It is generally the leading, and this is, you can't really call it a theory. It's a hypothesis, and it's not really testable. They've tried to do it under laboratory conditions, and they have gotten very mixed results. It's actually believed to not be involved with any kind of intelligent spirit or ghost or anything like that. It's actually believed to be subconsciously enacted by what's called a human agent. They use the term agent. It's usually someone who's going through some type of severe hormonal change. So it could be a teenager going through puberty, or it could be a female going through pregnancy, or it could be a female going through menopause. Exactly. I would be interested to see if it's with the rise in people getting hormonal treatments, because of they're transitioning from one gender to another. I'd be interested to see if there's a rise in activity around those sorts of people. It's random. It's spontaneous. It's not a superpower because that people can control. Yeah. It usually happens in moments of heightened activity. Mm-hmm. So if you're asking if I believe in poltergeists, yes, then yeah, because that's literally what we're part of what we're investigating. Yeah. Yeah. Do I believe in demons and demonic possession and things like that? That's a trickier question. My personal faith, I am a Christian. Me too.
Obviously, I don't speak out on my religion a bunch on the podcast, but I do believe in God,
Yeah. I am a Christian. The idea of demons and demonic possession and exorcism is biblical. Jesus drove demons out of the man and, into the herd of pigs. That story is in the New Testament. Yep. So from that aspect, it's part of my belief system. I've never witnessed or experienced a credible example of it that could not be explained by either mental illness or mental illness combined with drugs or alcohol of some type. I've seen people who thought they were possessed or oppressed. These people, generally speaking, were not the most stable people to begin with. And my own mother, she passed in 2007. God rest her soul. I love her very much, but she was a firm believer, and she saw, not literally saw, but she saw angels and demons as being behind everything that happened in her life. If a car cut you off on the highway, well, that was the devil trying to kill you. And the fact that car didn't hit you is because an angel got in the way and stopped. She just thought that everything that happened was attributable to angels and demons. So do I personally believe, like I said, it's part of my belief system. I'm open-minded to it. I'm just yet to see any, credible, examples of it in my own personal life.
Yeah, that's something that, I see a lot of people go. Because there's some people that I know exactly what you're talking about, especially, there's been stories and stuff.
That's exactly why I asked, because a lot of people, it's either, I don't know how to say it.
A lot of people, there's some people
they're either all in or all out. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
That's why I felt like that was a good one. You have any more questions?
I have one random question. Who's your favorite pro wrestler of all time?
Oh, that you finally asked me an easy question. Brett the Hitman Hart, man.
Oh yeah,
shit.
that's a good choice. That's a good choice. That's a good choice.
He's just, he could, wrestle. He was safe. He didn't hurt anybody.
Yeah.
He had a cool gimmick. He could, he could be a babyface. He could be a heel. He could, he could talk. He could do everything. I used to say Ric Flair, and of course, being from North Carolina. He's, here in recent years, he's kind of gone off the deep end. He's kind of lost a lot of luster to me, but he'd still be a close second.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, man, I just want to tell you thank you so much for coming on and like being our first guest, and you were fantastic, man. You had a lot of knowledge of everything, and that was really cool. And we've been with this first, if you want to call it a season, it ain't really a season, but with the first topics we're doing a lot of North Carolina stuff. So in the future, man, we'd like to have you back on sometime, maybe with a different topic or something, because you were a great guest.
Oh, 100%. And actually, I think we should stop recording because I'm going to ask him another question off camera, of course.
Oh, okay. Well, do you have anything that you'd like to plug or shout out or anything like that?
I'll just mainly what we're doing now is residential investigations. If people, want us to come out and investigate your house, we're not Ghostbusters. We're not going to try to tell you that we can, stop any activity or get rid of anything. But if you want us to come out and investigate your house, you can contact us. Our website is hauntednc.org. And the email address to contact us is info@hauntednc.org. We also have a Facebook page. It says the original Haunted North Carolina. There was a whole, long story I won't get into, is why we had to go with the original, because there was another group that came along that tried to take the name, and they nabbed the Facebook the Facebook name first, and so we wanted to make sure that people understood that we were the original.
Yes.
But if anybody, and we still do occasionally go out to public places or places that are not someone currently living in them. So if we decide we're going to check out this Stonewall Jackson boys home,
I'll text that to you so you don't forget it, just in case you want to look into it a little bit.
I've already written it down. If we
cool.
manage to set something up and decide we're going to do that, I will get in touch with you guys, and you're more than welcome to.
Dude, I would love that.
That'd be awesome.
It's really, honestly, like 30 minutes away from us. That'd be so cool.
All right,
man. Well, again, thank you so much for coming on, Mr. Jim Hall. Appreciate it, man. And I'm going to go ahead and stop this right here, and then you can ask him what you want to ask.
And the thought of you watching me gets me so wet.